Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Gold podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. And with me today is a very exciting junior exploration company in the Silver State. That's Nevada, for you people out there who don't know that. And we're talking with Western Exploration today. Again, very interesting, tightly structured junior company in Nevada. With us is Darcy Marud. He is the president and CEO, again, of Western Exploration. Darcy, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey, Jordan, always a pleasure. Good to see you again. How you been keeping?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there, Darcy. Um, but let's talk about your company, Western Exploration. First, please share with us the company symbols and also the current market cap.
Yeah, no, pleasure, Jordan. So we are traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol WEX and OTCQX under the symbol WEXPF. So you can find us on either one of those exchanges. Our current market cap, you know how it goes day to day, but we're somewhere in that 40 million to 45 million Canadian range. We've been kind of hanging around that range for the last probably month or so.
Okay, and next thing, let's talk about your cash position because you raised several months ago, and this raise was heavily oversubscribed. And I mean, that's kind of an understatement. So, talk about the raise, the demand that you had, and what you will use this money for.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. So we did raise about $6.8 million at the end of March. It was oversubscribed. We brought in a lot of new investors into the company, as well as some shareholders that have been with us since the inception of the company, which was 2022 when we went public. So it was very well received. I think it is on the merits of the high grade results that we had from our Gravel Creek drilling last year. That got a lot of attention at the PDAC right when we started marketing for our raise. So we've currently got of that 6.8 million we raised, well over 5.5 of that still in the treasury. And that's going to be going to the drill program that we've proposed doing and that we're currently getting ready to start at the Gravel Creek deposit. We should be drilling there within the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're getting the roads and platforms and all that done as we speak. And that drill program will probably be around, I would say, between 4,000, 5,000 meters. We could have raised more money, as you said, Jordan. There was excessive demand for our offering. I think it was well priced, but also given, as I said, the merits of the previous results. But what we really wanted to do was get that drilling started and demonstrate to the market that there is continuity to that high-grade mineralization. I think that's to the benefit of everybody that's in the company and past shareholders as well. And then based on that, probably look to raise additional capital to keep those drills going right throughout the end of till the end of the year.
And before we get more into the drilling, let's step back for a second and just give an overview of this project, the Aura project, which I know contains multiple deposits currently. So please share with the audience just a background on the Aura project.
Sure, happy to, Jordan. So there's three different resource areas on the project, which I think makes it unique. Wood Gulch was a past mine. It was mined by Homestake in the late 80s to the early 90s. Doby George, which is the farthest west project that we have, has a resource of just over 500,000 ounces. It was discovered around the same time in the late 80s. It's been, evaluated over time. There's over 800 drill holes in it. Independence Gold actually had it to a pre-feasibility stage of study. A lot of words there. Back in the late 90s, and we're going to put it into production before they changed focus into the uranium boom at that time. So Doby George, 500,000 ounces, very well known. We are currently working towards a feasibility study there. And last but not least, or a pre-feasibility study, last but not least is our Gravel Creek discovery, where we have about 800,000 ounces currently, but where we made that new high-grade discovery adjacent there last year. So all three of those deposits are within, our contiguous claim block of about 61 square kilometers. All three of them are open for expansion. And I think what's interesting to us is if you look at Wood Gulch and Gravel Creek, they share many similarities to some of the highest grade epithermal deposits in that part of Nevada, namely Sleeper, Midas, and Delamar, which are all the same age and the same rocks, the same mineralogy, And now that we've found the high grade at Gravel Creek, we think now we can add that to the mix. So that makes it even more comparable to some of those high grade deposits that were mined in the 80s and 90s. On top of the good geology and metallurgy that we have, we're only about an hour and 15-minute drive north of Elko on a paved highway. So Elko, as we know, is one of the major mining cities in North America, supports Barrick, Newmont, and the Nevada Gold Mining Joint Venture on all their efforts out of northeastern Nevada. So very well situated project, very good metallurgy, and it's comparable to a lot of these high-grade discoveries that were company makers for the likes of Newmont in the past.
Okay, let's talk about the current resources, just so people know. So the oxide deposit, Doby George, and then also you can mention Gravel Creek. So how many ounces are we looking at right now for both these
So
deposits?
all told, Jordan, there's between 1.3, 1.4 million ounces, just due to rounding when you do gold equivalent. Of that, about 525,000 ounces is oxide at about a gram per ton at Doby George. Wood Gulch has an oxide resource after mining of about 115,000 ounces at about 0.8 gram per ton. And then Gravel Creek has about 800,000 ounces at about 6 gram per ton. The difference being Wood Gulch and Gravel Creek are oxide right, or Wood Gulch and Doby George, sorry, are oxide right at surface, open pitable, heap leachable. Gravel Creek, being a new discovery, is at depth and it's sulfide. We think that Wood Gulch and Gravel Creek are probably the same mineralizing system, just on different mineralized fault structures. So we think Wood Gulch is exposed at surface, Gravel Creek to the east about a kilometer at depth, but probably related to each other.
Okay, so big picture, I mean, we don't want to get too far into the future, but what would a just again into the future, what would a potential mining operation look like, just so investors can visualize? I mean, you have the oxide resource. I mean, you have the sulfides, which would be mined underground, of course. What would a larger operation look like? And I know
Yeah.
that's contingent upon how big Gravel Creek is.
Oh, yeah. No, of course, Jordan, very contingent on what we do with Gravel Creek. But right now we know that Doby George and Wood Gulch are both at surface oxide, so they could easily be open pit heap leach. Wood Gulch was mined by heap leach open pit in the past by Homestake, so we know that's feasible there. Doby George, we've done a lot of metallurgical test work. We reported that early this year that showed a 75% recovery at a half-inch crush in the column leach test work. So we're very confident that we could take that to a pre-feasibility demonstrating that kind of recovery, 75% with an open pit heap leach. Gravel Creek, on the other hand, is about 400 meters below surface. It's wide. It's about 20 meters true width currently in the resource, about 6 gram per ton. So it could support an underground bulk mining method. The metallurgy there demonstrates that the gold and silver report to a float concentrate, recovering about 95 to 97% of the gold and silver to that concentrate, with very good gold grades in the concentrate of about 4 ounce per ton gold and over 50 ounce per ton silver. So a very marketable concentrate. And we know that there's several autoclaves and autoclaves and roasters within Nevada that look for this type of material for their operation. So being in Nevada, producing a concentrate and toll milling that does not concern me. I think we can produce a high enough con that that would be viable. Now, this new discovery at Gravel Creek is immediately adjacent to that resource, but it's higher grade and narrower. So we're seeing more veins and hydrothermal breccias that are anywhere between 20 and over 100 gram per ton. The drilling program this year will focus on extending that to bring that into that resource at Gravel Creek. So we think we have potential to grow Gravel Creek substantially. And then after that, we think Wood Gulch could be the next Gravel Creek with additional drilling down dip of that one.
Okay, so the overall project about nearly 1.5 million ounces. So Gravel Creek by itself, how big does that need to get for a major company to really not only care, but start to like really get interested in it?
Right. The bigger, the better, Jordan. The bigger, the better. But I think if you were to look at it, and my experience working with Meridian and Yamana, which were intermediate mining companies and very active in the acquisition space, From that perspective, you'd be looking at somewhere around 1.5 million ounces as a minimum, right? Because that would be able to give you about 100 to 150,000 ounces a year, which is significant. And the 1.5 million ounces also gives you a 7 to 10 year mine life. So you want that mine life and you want a sizable production profile from the operation to justify that capital going into it, plus the acquisition. So that's kind of always been our goal, is to get Gravel Creek to a minimum of 1.5 million ounces. I think right now we're at 800,000 ounces, but with this new discovery, we clearly see the area we need to go to increase that to above that 1.5 million.
Okay, and so let's just run over the figures again. You're going in this program, you're going to spend how much? I mean, how many holes, how many meters are you looking to do?
Um, we're doing about 5,000 meters. It would be anywhere between 5 and 6 holes to start. You know, the holes are between 600 and 700 meters deep. So we're leaving a little bit of room there to add additional drilling where we need it. That would be a commitment of approximately 4 million Canadian to do that. So we've got a little bit less than the treasury to follow up. Again, what we'd look to do, Jordan, is assure the market that those results are there and that they are connecting to what we did last year. And then based on that, look to bring additional capital into the company to continue that drilling right through to the end of the year. We will be starting with 2 drill rigs. We do have a mechanism to bring a third into the project starting in September. So again, I think with the drilling starting here shortly, by the middle of September, we'll know how much more drilling we want to do going forward this year.
So these holes, I mean, just to drill a bit deeper, I mean, no
Yep,
pun intended.
no problem.
Um, are 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 the like what's kind of the orientation or how far apart do you see them being?
Good question, Jordan. And you know, last year we outlined with drilling a cross section that had about 60-meter drill spacing through this new discovery. What we want to do is step out to the north, to the south, and up dip of that about 80 meters in section and 80 meters in dip length. And the reason being that is probably adequate enough to pull all that together into an inferred resource in the short term. So what you don't want to do is take step outs that are too wide so that you get lost and not know what connects to what, but you don't want to make them too tight that you're just replicating what you've previously done. So in this area we're talking about, we've drilled about 18 drill holes in this high grade area in the past. They all demonstrate very good grades in excess of 20 gram per ton over widths of anywhere between 0.5 meter and 9 meters. So we know that the high grade's there. Now let's go back and get enough drilling in it that you can connect those dots together to get to that inferred resource. So the discovery's been made. Now it's about connecting the dots, connecting it back up to the main Gravel Creek resource. And if we're successful doing that, we think we can significantly increase that resource within the next 12 months.
So that's really the biggest question here. I mean, what you just said, like, does this connect to the resource and this new discovery? How big is it? Because people see the word discovery. It's like I'm a technical analyst. So when people talk
Yep.
about breakouts, it's like there's different degrees of these things. So you can have a discovery that's like 2 million ounces, or you can have a discovery that's like 50,000 ounces, right?
Right,
So
right.
that the and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that's really the key. Does it connect, and how big is this discovery?
Exactly. And as I said, there's already drill holes in there that demonstrate that those high grades are there and that the structures are there. Now, you know, from the word discovery, for me, it really means you've identified a new target with economic grades and widths that you can now chase up, right? So I think we've made the discovery process. Now you're de-risking that discovery to take it to the inferred resource category. So those are the logical steps. So this year is really about demonstrating that continuity with the drilling. And then once you've demonstrated that continuity, then you're really off to the races running, doing additional step out holes to bring that resource up to its maximum potential. We know the area we're drilling, Jordan, is about 600 meters along strike. It's about 300 meters wide, which is roughly the same size as the current Gravel Creek resource footprint. So we see 800,000 ounces there. And here we're seeing narrower but higher grades. So we see similar potential here for, that kind of range of resource expansion. So it could be a doubling of the current Gravel Creek resource with what we currently know. So largely de-risked because we've got the legacy holes there that show the high grades and structures are there. Last year, we drilled it tight enough to demonstrate that we do have continuity between those holes. So this year, it's about stepping out and continuously adding to that continuity to get it to an inferred resource level type continuity. That's what we're working towards here, Jordan. If this drilling goes well, within 12 months, we can have that whole area drilled out and at that level of drilling density, about 80 meters between holes.
So again, if this goes well, it's hypothetical, but potentially you could get the Gravel Creek resource to, $1.5 million. That takes the overall project resource to well over 2 million. That's really the target that you want? And so can you answer that question with this current program, or does that get you like very close to an answer?
It gets us very close to an answer, Jordan. I think, we know this industry very well, that you want to have a certain level of certainty with your drilling. The way I look at it is this current drilling establishes continuity. And then if you extend that continuity to the footprint, you can then see that type of potential that you just referenced, doubling of the Gravel Creek resource. It requires additional drilling so that you can scientifically get to that 43-101 resource, which we all want to get to, right? So I think there's additional drilling that'll be required, but I think it'll give our shareholders in the market the certainty that the continuity exists so that you're pretty confident that just by doing this additional drilling, you'll get to a point within the next 12 months, you can update that resource. I would also add, Jordan, that, that extension to the northeast that we're talking about, it goes 300 meters. The last hole that we drilled out there returned 5 meters, or sorry, 3.5 meters of 54 gram per ton. That's the farthest drill hole stepping out that we've done so far, and it's still showing results that are in excess of 50 gram per ton with no follow-up. So what I look for when I look at a project is size. Does it have the size of anomalies of interest to be a significant size deposit? Here we can say yes. I also look for a number of different targets because you don't want to be tied down to one target and have your exploration potential limited. Here we've got Doby George, we've got Wood Gulch, we've got Gravel Creek and extensions out of all of those. And then third, I look at, are we getting high grades and those structures continuing out within those broader alteration zones? And I can say definitely at Wood Gulch and Gravel Creek and Doby George, we are. So it's about going back and following those up diligently with exploration to start connecting those dots and bringing them into resource. It's not linear. It takes time, takes drilling, but I'm confident we're well on the path to doing that, Jordan, especially at this new high-grade discovery at Gravel Creek.
Okay, and so you're able to drill year round?
No, we're not able to drill year round. We do have within our permit from the end of February to the start of June, we have migratory birds and we have several other permit considerations, but that's when we have the most snow. So we can pretty much go from, middle June to end of June, all the way through to the end of the year.
Okay, and how will Doby George progress at the same time? I mean, you have the resource there, you have the metallurgy. So then what's the next step there over the next year?
The next step is to really update that resource, and we'll start on that here very shortly, Jordan. So you take that new drill information, the new metallurgy, update your resource model, redesign the pits on it, and then look at site layouts, et cetera, for a PEA to a PFS. So the majority of that work is done. Now it's pulling it all together in the engineering studies to get into a study that's got significant enough weight behind it to be classified as a pre-feasibility study. Why do we want a pre-feasibility study, Jordan? It was at a pre-feasibility study in the past, but I think for us, it is the minimum study required that we could then start the permitting process for a mine plan with the U.S. Forest Service that holds the land that Doby George sits on. So we need that pre-feasibility to kick off the permitting. That is our goal here, is to get that started very soon. I would just add, Jordan, that Doby George, the deposits are in Forest Service land, but we have a mineral lease just south of the deposit that is signed with Nevada Gold Mine joint ventures until the end of December 2031. We can buy that at any time for agricultural value, and we'll put most of the infrastructure for Doby George on private fee land. So we've got a mix of the two there, but most of the infrastructure would be on private land, and we think that would help with the permitting process.
Okay, and I guess one more thing. I mean, you guys have been around, at least public, for several years. What's your share structure?
Well, like you said early on, it's very tight. We went public in January of 2022. It seems so long ago. But January 2022 with about 30 million shares outstanding. We've done 3 capital raises in that time to advance the exploration at Doby, George, and Gravel Creek, and our current share structure has 43 million shares outstanding. So still very tightly held. Our major shareholder is a private equity group out of New York called Golconda. They own about 46% of the shares. They've been in the company since 2013. They are some of the original shareholders. They funded about $30 million worth of exploration to make that Gravel Creek discovery and get it to 43-101 compliant, which we then used to go public. And they're in the company for the long term. They have not been sellers of the stock. They're in the company for the long term. Agnico Eagle owns about 14% of the company. They've done several private placements with us in the past when we were private. Most recent, they contributed to our last private placement that we closed in March. They're on a technical committee with us, so they've been very important for us as far as exploration expertise and kind of that experienced exploration team that you can bounce ideas off of. So Agnico Eagle, 14%, and then we have some high net worth individuals and some institutional investors, Oramet being one of them. Oramet's been in every private placement we've done since we went public. They own about 5.4% of the company. And then Europac owns about 1.3 million shares. I'm not sure what that is in a percentage, but they've been a very solid shareholder of ours as well. So diversified long-term shareholders. And I think, with that tight share structure, we're working on getting that liquidity going a little bit more. We've been working hard on that, and I think we're starting to see us turn a corner there with getting some trading up. We're doing on an average of about 20,000 shares a day now.
And Darcy, before we close here, is there anything you want to mention that we didn't touch on earlier?
I think we've touched on it all, but I can't emphasize enough, Jordan, the similarities of Gravel Creek to some of the most prolific high-grade epithermal deposits in Nevada. Gravel Creek Wood Gulch are the exact same age, the same rocks, the same mineralogy. Everything is identical. And now that we've identified those high grades, I think we're really off to the races with this one. And we're very excited as an exploration team, more excited than we've ever been on what Gravel Creek can ultimately hold. And in the background, we've got Doby George. I don't think we found everything there, but just a lot going on, Jordan. So it offers our shareholders a lot of optionality for discovery, for short-term de-risking and development, and long-term resource growth.
Okay, Darcy, it's a very exciting story. I mean, a lot of value for the that you have already for the current market cap. Thank you so much for joining us. I and my audience, we really appreciate it, and hopefully we can have you back in the future, see how the drilling is going.
It would be my pleasure, Jordan. Look forward to it. Thank you.